Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my March 2025 reading vlog. So far, it is only the first day of the month, but I have been making my way through a lot of my books that I will be reading this month. So first of all, for my 100 Epic Reads of a Lifetime poster, I am reading Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov, and you will hear more about that in my vlog dedicated to the poster. Up next, I am reading The Will of the Many by James Islington. I'm 100 and something pages into it. It's 600 pages. I can't even tell you what's going on in it right now. There's just a lot of information being thrown at me. But essentially there is a guy who is an orphan who lives in a society where people can zap the power out of you. The power is called will. There are 8 different levels of being, obviously number 1 being the strongest and number 8 being the weakest. So there is a lot of power structure stuff going on, a lot of allusions to Roman history. All of their names are very Roman. They're all 3 names. And of course, their first title is the 1 to 8 in their power hierarchy. So there's just a lot going on. But at the moment, this main orphan guy is going to go to an academy as a spy. So that's really all I know about this book so far. It is absolutely fine. I am not having any problems with it. The writing's just fine, so we will see where this story goes. Also from the library, I have picked up The Witch of Colchis by Rosie Hewlett. It's a story, a retelling about Medea, Jason and the Argonauts, so I will be starting this one as well this month. And I have already read Joker Year 1 by Chip Zdarsky, Jorge Jiminez, and other contributors. This gets 1 star from me. This was confusing, annoying, terrible, and I hate when the Joker is deified or when they do weird shit with the Joker, because he is already just a scary concept on his own, that being a crazy killer clown you can't really reason with, and he is obsessed with Batman. That should be the core of his character. I don't understand why we needed to have a guy changing Joker's personality 3 times, even though they're all the same personality. I don't know. I really didn't like this book, and I also really didn't like all of the what is to be accused as AI art in this. That's Willem Dafoe. That looks terrible. And these were little interludes that didn't even make sense in the story, and I was just confused the whole time, and I didn't like it. I understand a lot of this was a continuation of the failsafe arc, so that's totally fine, but this interlude with the Joker was very useless, very dumb, and I really didn't like it, so I can't wait to return that to the library. Finally, a book that I will be reading very soon. Let me just grab it. Batman, Death, and the Maidens by Rucka and Klaus Janson. And this is a Ra's al Ghul story, so I will be looking forward to it because I actually like the Al Ghuls. And I hope that this story will be insane, just like them. So that is my reading month so far, and we're only 1 day in. So stay tuned for all of my updates very soon. has been a while since I have updated you, so let's just go ahead. I finished Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov, and that's getting 5 stars from me. Just an excellent story, told wonderfully and written gorgeously, very captivating, very off-putting, and very, very interesting. Next, I am almost done The Will of the Many by James Islington. I'm about 70 pages from the end. A lot more has happened since my first initial description of the book, but that's all I'm going to say for now because the book is fairly new and I know some people won't want spoilers, but all I can say is that a lot has happened in this book. I am looking forward to seeing what the main character does. I like seeing how he gets through a lot of his obstacles, but I'm also annoyed by one obstacle that he keeps facing because I feel like it's a bit redundant. But otherwise, I think it's interesting. He is trying to solve a mystery of a death, various deaths at this academy, and so far he is making his way up the ranks, and it is very interesting. So hopefully the ending will have a lot of jam-packed action. I know he is starting a game with all of his students. We'll see how that ends up. Next, I finished Batman Death and the Maidens by Rucka and Klaus Janson, and I thought that this story was pretty good. I really liked the story introducing Nisa Al Ghul, which is Ra's al Ghul's much older daughter, older than Talia, and her manipulating Talia, eventually tossing her into the Lazarus pit over and over again in order to enact revenge against Ra's for constantly trying to mess up her life and kill her loved ones. Super interesting stuff. The other half of the story is Bruce getting a potion from Ra's to see the ghost of his parents, mostly his mother, and that one is a typical story. There wasn't really anything interesting added on to that. Batman has seen ghosts before without the use of magical influence, so it just was kind of a story to add Batman in there and tie into the title. But I really, really enjoyed this comic and Nissa as a character. And finally in this update, I read Batman The Adventures Continue Season 1 by Alan Burnett, Paul Dini, Ty Templeton, and Monica Kubina. This is one of my favorite comics of the year so far. This is getting 10 out of 10, 5 gold stars. I adored this so much. Now this premise is based on the DC animated universe and what they wanted to have done if they were given the opportunity to continue to write for basically Batman the Animated Series or the new Batman adventures. Now a lot of this ties into what they're doing in modern comics such as Jason Todd, Deathstroke, Azrael is in here, so a lot of it would not have been able to make it to television in the 90s, nor could it have been made to television now, so the fact that it is done in a really cool DCAU style comic is super, super interesting. I love the way they incorporate all of essentially my favorite characters back into the story. Like they had Jason, Deathstroke, John Paul Valley, all at the same time, and the story was seamless. I adore this comic. I love it so, so much, and I am so, so glad to own it. Of course, they also made episode title cards too, based on the original cartoon, and I just love that. Look how good they look. Of course, Ty Templeton is one of my favorite artists because he can recreate the DC animated universe so well, and I just can't get enough of all of the character designs. The writing in this, Paul Dini is the best at this. I just love this comic so much, and I could talk about it for hours. I suggest reading it if you really, really enjoy the animated series. I also read a few more issues from the Devin Grayson Nightwing run, including the very infamous one that hasn't been republished anymore, and I thought that they were pretty good, really good, succinct story, and once again, I enjoy Devin Grayson as a writer. So that is my update for now. I plan to read the Medea book at some point, but that might transition from this month into next month. A lot of my month was just bombarded by trying to read The Will of the Many, and I'm not complaining. It's just a long book, and I'm taking my time with it. So stay tuned for more updates on my month and eventually my wrap-up. Hello everyone and welcome to my wrap up. Before I start discussing the books, I wanted to show off my new Rugrats VHS collection. Some of it is down there as well, but look at it. Isn't it pretty? I got all 24 of these tapes on eBay for an excellent price, and I am just so happy to finally own most of the Rugrats VHS collections. A lot of the tapes I still need are made after 2001, so hopefully they will be easier to acquire. But yep, look how nice it looks now. Everything looks nice. I really like it. All the bright colors and stuff. So finally here we are at the wrap up. I had a very varied month, so let's just get into those right away. So for my 100 Epic Reads of a Lifetime poster, I read Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov, and I am giving that book 5 stars. I think it is excellently written, a wonderful character piece, exciting, tense, disturbing, and just beautifully written. I am blown away by how beautiful the writing is and how Nabokov can just capture the audience's attention, and it's just so riveting and emotional and just very interesting. And I also think it's a very important story because I think readers need to be challenged. I think readers need to be disgusted in order to understand a lot about the world, and sometimes you just need to read a character piece about a very horrible person and get under their skin and understand what they're doing in their life without really understanding why. I think books like this are very vital to culture. Obviously, with a lot of the current climate, I especially think this is a very important piece of literature, and I am so glad to have read it. The next book I read this month was Joker Year 1 by Zdarsky and other contributors, and that's getting 1 star from me. Smack in the middle of a Batman failsafe arc, this stupid explanation having to retcon the 3 Jokers was really dumb, really stupid. It was so confusing. I didn't understand why it was interrupting an important storyline, and I also did not like a lot of the art. Obviously, the art that I mentioned in earlier clips, which have been accused of using AI, I do not like at all. I do not enjoy seeing any form of AI art. I think it's a vile constitution. I hate every facet of AI, and I just think that that is so embarrassing when comics are about the art and the story, and that's what they should always be about. It should not be about using AI in any capacity, and I find that just to be awful, especially when there are other real artists on that comic and in that series. So that was a waste of time for me. I hated it, and 1 star from me. Screw Joker Year 1, I hated that. I then read The Will of the Many by James Islington. It was a giant brick of a book, and at first it wasn't really capturing my attention. I felt that I was going through the motions while reading it, but then it picked up and there were obstacles that I found frustrating, characters I didn't really need to follow or care about, but I think that the main character was a very interesting one, and his arc was extremely interesting, and his motivations. And I'm not a huge action reader, but the world building was great. The games that he had to play, the school he was in, the hierarchy he was under were all very interesting concepts, and by the end I was a bit curious to see what will happen to the main character and his so-called family in the sequel. So at the end of all of that, reading it was quite the roller coaster. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. So I am probably going to pick up the sequel, but maybe not right away. We'll see. I then read Batman Death and the Maidens by Rucka and Klaus Janson. 5 stars, as I've stated before. Just a lovely, fun book. The character of Nissa Al Ghul is just so villainous and evil, and I love that she's just manipulating Talia. I love the Al Ghuls. I think they're just like the supernatural creature family of the Batman universe. Like, they're basically like demon, vampire, magical alchemists, and I love that so much. And I love how much they mess with Bruce and how much they mess with his ideas of the world. So just another excellent character piece featuring the Al Ghuls, and I really had a lot of fun with this comic.
The next comic I read was Batman The Adventures Continue, Season 1 by Alan Burnett, Paul Dini, and other contributors. 10 million, thousand, billion stars. It is one of my favorite comics I've ever read, and it's probably going to be on my top 10 of the year. I just loved it so much. I love all the characters that they included. I love the way that they included them. I love the way they wrapped up each volume episodically. I loved the episode title cards that they put at the end. I loved the art. I just really missed the DC animated universe, and specifically the Batman the Animated Series universe, so I was so glad to return to it. I understand the subsequent seasons are probably not going to be as well beloved by me personally, so I'm just taking the time to really enjoy how much I loved reading season 1. I might even go and reread it again before I start to read the other seasons. I just loved it so much. It's one of my favorite things I've ever read. And finally, I'm ending the month on The Witch of Colchis by Rosie Hewlett, which this is a Medea retelling. If you don't know Medea, she is the wife of Janson. She is a sorceress from the land of Colchis, and she ultimately ends up getting into her own tragedy when Janson tries to leave her and marry another princess, so she ends up killing their 2 sons as revenge. Now, I'm only this far into the book, and so far they are only just going to get married and settle. They are not even off of the Argo yet, so I can't really give a full review of this book. However, I am leaning towards a either 3.5 star or a 4 star, depending on how they tackle the tragedy of the story of Medea. So far, with her early childhood growing up, she was outcasted from her family, her sister, her brother, who she eventually kills, her father, her mother, and her aunt Circe, the witch from the Odyssey. And I really like how they have depicted her being considered an other, not just in her own family, but in her own country and just amongst people in general, because she's a witch. I have enjoyed a lot of the adventures that the Argo has gone through, and all of the ways that Medea uses her magic to help them, and how they're manipulating her into helping them. And so I am looking forward to how they tackle the tragedy. However, I think that it could possibly fail if they fail to recognize how much Medea does love her children and how much it hurts for her to have to kill them, because that is the tragedy after all. So my final rating will depend on how they tackle that topic, but it's not going to completely ruin the book for me if they sort of miss the mark a little bit, because I understand they have to make a lot of these stories palatable for a general audience, and most people don't want to hear about how a mom kills their 2 sons. So yeah, I will be finishing the month with this book, but that is everything that I read for the month of March. It was exciting, a lot of great comics, and then a lot of things that one thing I just didn't particularly enjoy. So I think that I had a pretty good month reading-wise, and I am looking forward to next month and what I read next. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.